Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Music Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and we are going to just jump right in with some music news. We're going to start with lawsuits, because that's always fun, right? Maybe not, but it does tend to get people's attention. Pandora, it turns out, is facing a copyright infringement lawsuit over unlicensed lyrics from Tom Petty, The Doors, and others. This article is from today, and Wixen, a music publisher that represents the Beach Boys, Tom Petty, The Doors, and Weezer, amongst others, is suing Pandora for copyright infringement. Specifically, Wixen doesn't believe that Pandora can legally post the lyrics of the listed artists' songs because no current agreement provides them with this right. Pandora consults third-party companies to provide accurate song lyrics, which an abundance of music fans are interested in viewing and discussing. However, Wixen claims that its artists' lyrics are not covered by any current licensing agreement and are not available for distribution by third-party companies. Wixen has allegedly informed Pandora of the issue. They allegedly informed them of the issue last year, but at the time of writing, the desired action, which is the removal of the song lyrics, has not been taken by Pandora. So they are now apparently taking the next step. Wixen first started in 1978. They manage over 2,000 artists' songs. Though the lawsuit specified damages of $150,000 for each of the 100-plus sets of lyrics Pandora is displaying without permission. This is according to Wixen. Experts anticipate that a settlement will be reached between the companies. Toward the end of 2018, Wixen settled a $1.3 billion lawsuit with Spotify for an undisclosed amount. The suit was narrowly filed ahead of a retroactive litigation deadline imposed by the Music Modernization Act, now passed into law. Pandora has yet to release an official response. Wow, so that is, I have no idea about the legalities of that. I know that Pandora does post lyrics. I know you can find lyrics all kinds of places, but I know, I don't know enough about copyright law to be able to speak in any kind of informed legal way. I just know that it sounds like it's a bit of a mess, and we'll see what happens if I would imagine that they would probably settle it in some way, but we'll just have to see. Speaking of lawsuits, Carrie Underwood is also the subject of a lawsuit. She has been hit with a lawsuit over the Sunday Night Football theme song. She is facing this lawsuit for allegedly copying another singer-songwriter's material for her 2018 Sunday Night Football theme song, Game On. This is in a complaint filed in Manhattan Federal Court today. Plaintiff Heidi Merrill claims that she wrote and recorded an identically titled track in 2016. Merrill says she pitched her song to Underwood and her producer, Mark Bright, at a Nashville conference the following year, with the idea that Underwood might use it as her next Sunday Night Football theme. But Bright responded through an assistant that he'd have to pass. That's a quote. Now, Merrill argues that Underwood's own Game On is, quote-unquote, substantially, even strikingly similar, if not identical, to her song in title as well as tempo, meter, time signature, hooks, chord progression, and other specifics. The complainant continues, the defendants knowingly, willfully, and intentionally copied original copyrightable elements of the plaintiff's original work, publicly performed or displayed the infringing song, and otherwise violated the plaintiff's exclusive copyrights in the work for substantial personal and commercial gain. Bright and Underwood are among 9 defendants named in the lawsuit, which also includes EMI Entertainment, Warner Chappell Music, the NFL, and NBC. In her complaint, Merrill also references a lawsuit from 2017 where Underwood and Bright faced similar accusations for the song Something in the Water. That case, though, was dismissed. Merrill and her co-writers are seeking an injunction and damages of an unspecified amount. Representatives for Underwood and Merrill did not immediately respond to the request for comment. If you want to hear those, you can, of course, go online and compare the 2 tracks. You can go on to Billboard to hear them, and you can compare those 2 tracks and see what you think in terms of, are they the same song? It's always hard to tell which one came first. Is it a chicken and egg kind of thing? Who knows? Not me. Certainly not me. Speaking of more lawsuits and being sued, Kanye West is also being sued for failing to clear a sample for the second time this month. According to Kanye West and his legal team, clearing samples is unnecessary. So apparently, performance actor Ronald Oslin Bob Semple filed a lawsuit against Kanye West, Kid Cudi, and Ty Dolla $ign. Filed at the United States District Court for the Central District of California, the actor claimed the artists, along with their collaborators, allegedly featured his voice without permission from his 2002 recording, The Spirit of Marcus Garvey. Garvey speaks to an all-black audience. In the lawsuit, Bob Semple aims to vindicate his rights for the deliberate taking of his work and voice, attacking West, Cudi, and Ty Dolla. That's hilarious. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't refer to him as sign, would you? But Bob Semple wants that's hyphenated, by the way. His first name isn't Bob. It's Bob, B-O-B-B hyphen Semple. So Bob Semple wants the court to force the artists to disgorge their ill-gotten profits attributable to their infringement. Wow. Disgorge their ill-gotten profits. Firing back against the actor's claims, Kanye used the fair use clause. He apparently doesn't need to clear any samples on his hits. But now his refusal has come back to haunt him. Fame Enterprises has filed a lawsuit in the Circuit Court of Colbert, either way, County in Alabama. The company claims to own George Jackson's I Can't Do Without You hit, listing Kanye, Pusha T, Def Jam, Universal Music Group, and GOOD Music. The complaint says both Kanye and Pusha T's 2018's hit Come Back Baby contains repeated, unauthorized, and unlicensed samples from Jackson's song. Jackson had recorded I Can't Do Without You before 1972 at Fame's recording studio in Alabama, placing the litigation outside of the purview of the Copyright Act of 1972. Kanye and Pusha T's song from the album Daytona uses Jackson's recording in the chorus. So, given that Kanye and Pusha T rap about quote-unquote drug addiction and the money made from selling drugs, end quote, Fame claims the company would never license Jackson's works. Additionally, alluding to Kanye's past and recent legal problems over sample clearances, Fame says all defendants have a pattern and practice of willfully sampling sound recordings without consent or permission. Fame has requested the disgorgement of profits, compensatory, consequential, incidental, and punitive damages in an amount to be determined by the trier of fact in this case, plus statutory fines, cost, interest, and expenses. Wow, there is a lot of stuff going on in terms of legalities in the music world. It will be interesting to see how all of these turn out, from Pandora to Carrie Underwood et al. To Kanye and again et al. There's a lot of people involved in a lot of copyright infringement and plagiarism accusations. Wow. It's crazy. I think it's time to take a break. Let's go ahead and take our first break of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll be turning to news that doesn't involve lawsuits. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Music Podcast, and I will be right back.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Welcome back to the GSMC Music Podcast. As promised, we are moving away from stories about lawsuits and into more music-related news. I mean, that was music-related news, but we're moving away from lawsuits. So our next story is that Apple Music, has selected Megan Thee Stallion as its Up Next artist. Houston native rapper Megan Thee Stallion, real name Megan Pete, has been selected as Apple Music's featured artist. Her mother, Holly Thomas, has rapped under the name Hollywood. The selection comes following the release of Stallion's debut album, Fever, via 300 Entertainment. Megan Thee Stallion is currently a third-year health administration student at Texas Southern University. Her first mixtape, Rich Ratchet, first came out in 2016. According to Apple Music, Fever showcases the Houston rapper's undeniable musical versatility, highlighted by her signature rapid-fire delivery and sharp-witted wordplay, inciting a finely tuned mix of sweet, sensual, and savage imagery. That is really good alliteration. Sweet, sensual, and savage imagery. Megan Thee Stallion's relationship with Apple Music first started in August of 2018. Ebro Darden, the music streaming platform's global editorial head of hip-hop and R&B, spotlighted her track, Big Ol' Freak, on his Daily Beats One radio broadcast. Apple subsequently added Megan to popular hip-hop playlists, The New South, The Plug, and the A-List Hip-Hop. She also went on to appear as a guest on Darden's show last December. Fever peaked number 3 on the Apple Music charts in its debut week and still sits in the top 15. She has received over 150 million streams on the platform. When she was asked about this selection, Megan Thee Stallion said, "I'm so excited to be part of Apple Music's Up Next program. Apple has been helping me spread my music to hotties all across the world, and now it's about to get even hotter." So she also added, "I love going to each city and getting to hug," she's talking about her fans, "to hug them and talk to them and twerk with them and drive the boat with them." She was speaking about regularly meeting up with her fans who are dubbed hotties. That is why she referenced that word in her original quote. So congratulations to Megan Thee Stallion. She's clearly someone to watch, and we'll see how this relationship with Apple Music plays out as it goes forward. In other music news, in terms of female artists, Katie Tunstall recently performed at the Isle of Wight Festival for the first time in about 10 years. She chatted with Danielle Perry in the studio backstage at that festival and talked about wanting to shine a light on women in the studio. She talked a little bit about setting deadlines for herself and what it was like to be back playing the Isle of Wight Festival after that decade-long absence. As far as shining a light on women in the studio, Tunstall is quoted as saying, "I'm not quite sure what to do about production on this album. I'm still having a look around, looking for some ladies to choose from, to be honest, because it's something I feel pretty passionate about. Certainly in the studio world, just to try and shine a light on more women being in the studio, because it's really rare. For my third record, I did a writing session with Linda Perry in LA, and that was amazing. We wrote a couple of really good songs together. She's the queen. Yeah, she's an amazing force in popular music. She's incredible. So just more of that, please. She also talked about self-imposed deadlines. She says she works better when she has a deadline, even if it's completely arbitrary and one that she's made up. So she says her brain works a little better when she has when she has a deadline. She said it was the same thing when she was at school. Basically, she says, if I've got an exam, I'm not going to do any work until 3 days beforehand, maybe 1 day beforehand. So when it comes to writing, she has to self-impose some deadlines in order to get her brain to work and get to the point. She says, I can see an end point that I've got to get to, and I'll make some good stuff. As for being back at the Isle of Wight Festival after 10 years, she told Perry, it's just amazing coming back and playing Isle of Wight because it's at least 10 years since I played here. When that happens and you come back and play somewhere that you've played before ages ago, you just think about all the life and the music and the adventures that you've had. It's mad. You can watch that interview with KT Tunstall and Danielle Perry on www.absoluteradio.co.uk if you are interested in that. Speaking of women in music, it's a lot of women in music today. I'm cool with that. Adele went to the Spice Girls' final comeback show and apparently had a blast. As she is wont to do, she posted about it on Instagram. She started the night off with a quick video of her on her way to the venue, which was at London's Wembley Stadium, and she is singing along to the Spice Girls that she says she's been a huge fan of since she was a child. She then went to the concert revealing that she first saw the Spice Girls 21 years ago. I wonder if that makes the Spice Girls feel old. Well, hopefully not, but kind of makes me feel old. She's quoted as saying, "Tonight with my nearest and dearest, I cried, laughed, screamed, danced, reminisced, and fell back in love with my 10-year-old self. It's no secret how much I love them, how much they inspired me to run for my life and never look back." So in addition to posting the video of her singing along, she also posted that she finally got to meet Ginger. She says, "I got drunk with the girls, and quite frankly, I can't believe how far I've come. Thank you for the madness I get to live. I couldn't have got here without you 5 British legends. I love you." And she did post a picture of herself with Jerry, or Ginger Spice as she is known, who also posted the same picture and said, "Finally together," with a heart emoji. So yeah, that I can both picture and not picture the 5 of them, Adele and the 4 Spice Girls who are on the reunion tour, just getting drunk together and talking about all of that. Elsewhere, the Spice Girls have announced that they are taking the reunion tour to Australia in January 2020. So they join quite a growing list of people who are headed to Australia to tour through the end of this year and upcoming in 2020. Some sadder news in terms of music, and that is, you may or may not know that the GSMC Podcast Network is based in Northern California. We are in the Sacramento area, and it was announced today that the Sacramento-based retail chain Dimple Records is liquidating stores and shutting down all locations. I know it's happening with brick-and-mortar stores everywhere, with streaming and everything. It's just, I'm sure, harder to stay in business, but Dimple is a staple, an icon here in this area. I know people who will go out of their way to visit Dimple Records, depending on where they are. They'll drive over to visit the store, even if it's not fully on the route for where they're going. But this is after 45 years in operation. The 7-unit Sacramento, California-based home entertainment software chain Dimple Records has announced that it is liquidating its stores and closing down. This is fresh off receiving accolades at the Music Biz annual conference in May, where Dimple owners the Radakovitz family were presented with the organization's Independent Spirit Award. The company has now announced the hiring of Great American Group to run a going-out-of-business sale for the chain. The chain's website is now located at dimpleretires.com and advertises 20 to 40% off in an everything must go retirement sale. The 7-unit chain had 4 stores in Sacramento, 2 book and vinyl stores, and 2 all-around entertainment software stores carrying CD, DVD, vinyl, and trend and pop merchandise. They had stores in Citrus Heights, Roseville, and Folsom, California. The 7 stores ranged in size from 3,000 square feet to 13,000 square feet, with 4 of those topping the 10,000 square feet each mark. Dimple also has a substantial business through the Amazon Marketplace. Moreover, the company also has another 42,000 square feet of warehouse space filled with pallet loads of entertainment software packed to the ceiling. Dylan Radakovitz says that at the Music Biz conference, The Family, which has 4 members working for the chain, her husband Johnny, who founded the chain, and their 2 sons, thought they were bringing on a new investor to help the business, but that deal never materialized. She says a number of factors contributed to the decision to shutter the stores. First off, all of the stores previously sold a lot of R&B, hip-hop, and rap music, with 3 of the stores heavily weighted toward those genres. But most of the big acts in that genre are no longer releasing physical products. She is quoted as saying, "We used to sell 3,000 copies of a big album from that genre, but you can't sell what they don't make." So at any rate, they are they're closing down. They will no longer be around, and as I said, I know a lot of people will be very disappointed. The former host of this show, Keith, really loved Dimple Records. I haven't heard back from him. I sent him the article, but I know he's going to be very disappointed that they're no longer going to be around. On that sort of sad note, we are going to take our second break of the podcast. When we come back, a few more news stories, and then we'll be wrapping things up. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Music Podcast, and I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Music Podcast. Let's talk about some new music, kind of new music from not-so-new artists, if you will. Gloria Gaynor has her first gospel album. It's called Testimony, and it has debuted in the top 5 on Top Gospel Albums charts. She is an icon, Gloria Gaynor. If you don't know her name, you probably know at least what she is most famous for, and that is the song I Will Survive. That is her number 1 Billboard Hot 100 hit from 1979. But she has now released her first faith-based set. Again, that is called Testimony. And it is... The LP debuts with 1,000 equivalent albums earned in its first week, ending June 13th. According to Nielsen Music, it debuted at number 4. Gloria Gaynor recorded the 10-track Testimony in Nashville at RCA Studio A. It features guests including Mike Millard of Mercy Me on the sets He Won't Let Go, and Yolanda Adams on Talking About Jesus. Gloria's Survive, which led the Hot 100 for 3 weeks, won the only Grammy Award for Best Disco recording at the 22nd annual ceremony in 1980. This was amid backlash against disco. The Academy renamed the award Best Dance Recording the following year. Gaynor scored one additional Hot 100 Top 10, her first entry on the chart, a cover of the Jackson 5's Never Can Say Goodbye, which reached number 9 in 1975. And she looks amazing, I just have to say. The picture that is included with the article, she looks way better than I do. So yeah, she looks really amazing, and I am happy for her that she has this album out and that it debuted at number 4. She's got an amazing voice, so I can only imagine that she would be amazing at gospel. Speaking of new music from kind of old artists, in this case an artist who is no longer with us, that is Miles Davis has a previously unheard album coming out. It's called Rubber Band, and it's being released by Warner Records. So it was recorded back in 1985 when Davis left his longtime label of Columbia Records and joined with Warner Brothers Records. Soon after he joined Warner Brothers Records, he began recording the Rubber Band album. It was recorded in Los Angeles at American Studios with producers Randy Hall and Zane Giles. He took a radical departure from his usual music in those sessions with hints of funk and soul grooves. If you aren't familiar with Miles Davis, he was a jazz artist, and so this was a departure. It was eventually shelved and not released. He had planned to feature vocalists Al Jarreau and Chaka Khan on that album, but it was, as I said, shelved, and he went on to record Tutu. The album has then not been, I don't know if it's been forgotten. I don't know if people knew about it, but it hasn't been around for 30 years. But so after 30 years, it is being released. The entire 11-track album is being released on September 6th. Formats will, according to the article, run the gamut, spanning streaming, an LP vinyl release, and a CD version. Davis fans got a taste of the long-lost album last year with the release of a 4-track Rubber Band EP for Record Store Day. The 11-track album was finished by those original producers of Hall and Giles in cooperation with Davis's nephew, Vince Wilburn Jr., who also played drums for the first sessions in 1985 and 86. The album also features newly recorded vocals from, I don't know if it's Layla or Lala Hathaway and Ledisi. There are, again, 11 tracks. Davis played both trumpet and keyboards on the album and was joined in the studio by, keyboardists Adam Holzman, Neil Larson, and Wayne Lindsay, percussionist Steve Reed, saxophonist Glenn Burris, and, of course, his nephew, Vince Wilburn Jr., who was on drums. The Rubber Band recording sessions were engineered by Reggie Dozier, whose brother Lamont Dozier formed part of the Motown songwriting team Holland Dozier Holland. Rubber Band includes linear notes from George Cole, who was the writer of The Last Miles. It also features an original painting by Miles Davis as the cover artist. If you are a fan of Miles Davis, then you can pre-order this album now. As I said, it is coming out September 6th, which is pretty much right around the corner. It's going to be here before we know it. As we wrap up this episode, I have one more story that's just kind of silly and lighthearted. It is music-related, fashion-related, and it's about Dolly Parton, which you can't go wrong. I love Dolly Parton. I think she would just be hilarious and a hoot to hang out with. She seems so sort of funny and genuine, but she had a reaction to an outfit that featured her on a Saturday night on June 15th. Post Malone, wore a rather unique outfit during his Bonnaroo set in Manchester, Tennessee. He's not just wearing a t-shirt with Dolly's face on it. No, he's wearing an entire outfit with hundreds of Dolly's face on it. It kind of looks like like scrubs, like dark scrubs. I don't think that's what it is, but it's pants and top. So just think of like scrubs. And then there are row upon row of Dolly Parton's face up and down this entire outfit. And she did react on social media. She wrote on Twitter. She shared a photo of the album and then wrote, "Love the outfit from head to toe at Post Malone." And then she also added a winking emoji. I don't know if how I would feel about somebody even wearing my face on a t-shirt, let alone my face on an entire outfit, hundreds of my smiling face just staring out of the outfit. It's quite the outfit. You really should look it up. But she is, of course, a good sport, and I just think she seems like a good person all around. Not so sure what Post Malone's fashion thought process might have been, but hey, maybe he just really, really, really loves Dolly Parton, and I can understand that. Although I'm not prepared to wear her face all over my outfit, but that's just me. On that note, we are going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of the GSMC Music Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and join me again next week when we will have more stories from the world of music news. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.